they go like, oh my God, that's so sad. You're going to lose your baby, or, you work so hard and agak agak. So, but that's how it prepares me to be brave to do things. But having said that, you should always go into something with a healthy dose of fear.
You're listening to Foodie Canteen. I'm your host, Castle Lim. In this podcast, I sit down with Southeast Asia's leaders, entrepreneurs, and content creators in the F&B space. This is where you will learn about their trade secrets, or maybe you'll just find them as your next door neighbor. This show is supported by Good Foodie Media. For foodies who want to connect to the world through food, they curate the best spots to eat and drink in Malaysia, Bangkok, and Singapore. Check them out on Instagram for more. My guest today is like the best friend you rarely talk to because she's busy searching the world to satisfy her hunger for knowledge and adventure. Yet, when you call, you feel like you've never missed a chapter in her life. Basira Yeusuff is a Malaysian chef and the founder of Agak Agak Seoul, a 28-diner Malaysian restaurant sandwiched between a bar and a barber in Yeongnam Dong, Seoul that brings Malaysian food to the land of K-pop and K-drama. Her motto in life? Rational Yolo, which simply means you only live once, live responsibly, and don't fear rejection.
One of the things I remember the most is we used to we celebrate the holidays a lot, and there's a lot of families, a lot of aunties.
Yeah.
So we used to do this thing where we would take turns hosting the festivities. So my house would have Christmas, and then like an auntie would have Chinese New Year, another auntie would do Deepavali, another would do Raya Haji. So that's how many of us there are.
Yeah.
So I think one of my earliest memories of like cooking or having anything to do with food is, I guess, when we would go to each other's houses and bring like potluck or like food from like tapao or whatever.
Yeah.
So I'd help untapao things, put it on plates, or help heat up things and all. Yeah. So I get pretty comfortable in the kitchen, way more comfortable than if I were outside in the living room where the party is. So I think that's one of my earliest memories in the kitchen per se.
So you said like you had a big family. Do you think you are an introvert or an extrovert, or you're just an introvert who's comfortable in the kitchen?
The second and the third. I'm definitely an introvert.
Yeah.
Definitely more comfortable in the kitchen. Not to say I cannot perform, but when I do come out and go hoo-ha and host and stuff, I will need a lot of time to recharge.
So do you say like cooking play a big part in your life?
It does. It does. The thing is with cooking, why I was drawn to it initially from the get-go until to this day, is how much it makes sense to me. It's like if I wasn't cooking, I'd do bricklaying, something like that. It makes sense to me. A plus B equals C. C tastes good and makes other people happy. And me likewise. It makes sense. Like my sister, I don't even know what she does. She works in an office, something financial related. I know she... Yes. So like accountants and stuff.
Yeah.
I feel like I don't think I can do that. I'm very simple. I like how things work out after something is done. Therefore, end product. Okay. Yeah. So cooking.
So you
did
like
that for
to
me.
see like you putting your hands into something and you see the results of it, and that result makes you happy and makes other people happy. And where did you go to school for culinary training?
Initially, I went to KDU College. I think it has had a rebranding, a change of name a few times since I've been there. So that's how long ago I was there. Yes. And then I went to Switzerland to complete my degree. So I did degree in culinary management. And yeah.
You did your degree in Switzerland and undertook your apprenticeship in Germany under a 2 Michelin star restaurant. What would you say you learned from these countries and from these experiences?
I guess it's with any job when you join another team.
Yeah.
It's more like learning from their work culture, learning from the people, learning from the geographic location, what ingredients they have and how they work. And I don't think it is that much different from country to country.
Right.
It's more like from kitchen to kitchen, office to
Wow. That's a
office.
good way of
Everybody has
putting
their
it.
own work culture and how they do things. So that, to me, is, I guess, the most interesting thing when I go and work in other people's kitchens or countries. That is the most interesting thing to me.
And your first project, was it Root Cellars back in 2015?
So actually, before Root Cellar came about, I used to do sandwich pop-ups. And even before that was a cake thing.
Oh, okay.
So the cake thing was called Yay Cake. And then the sandwiches was called Yay Sandwich. Not very professional sounding names. But the sandwich thing kind of picked up steam. And then we had customers, we had clients asking us to cater for events, office events, Christmas events. And we even had a wedding thing, like a pre-wedding cocktail thing. And I felt like we needed a more professional sounding name. Yay Sandwich sounded a bit weird if I were to do wedding catering. So Root Cellar actually came about due to a rebranding.
Okay.
So it's like a combo of both of the earlier companies, the cake and the sandwich company. And then, I don't know, it kind of gave a broader spectrum of the things that we could do. And by we, I mean I. I was a solo one-man show back then. I had cousins and family members who would come in on per gig basis. But yeah, that's how Root Cellar came about.
And when did you know that Root Cellars was independent enough that you could just leave it and travel the world to let it run on its own?
It never happened. Root Cellar was very hands-on for me. So whenever I did travel, like for the first time I came to Korea to kind of do a bit of like a recce mission.
Yeah.
I left knowing that I would be back within a week. I left knowing that we had, at this time I had a team.
Yeah.
So I left knowing that we had gigs lined up, menus settled, payments all done and good. And I could still do things remotely. Should things pop up or happen, whatever, I was still there, in technology.
Yeah.
So I like doing things like that. I like my timeline planning. I like having things in order before I pop off to do my own thing. So initially when I came to do my recce mission here to Seoul, a week's worth, I had things lined up. So it wasn't to say it was independent, but it was a semi-well-oiled machine that could run on its own.
I can't wait for our listeners to hear about how you ended up in Seoul with Agak Agak. But before that, I want to ask, what makes you want to travel so much? What's your favorite part about it?
I think I'm no more special than other people who like to do that. I think it's more like discovering new things and experiencing new things. And I kind of like a glutton for punishment when it comes to comfort. I like being uncomfortable.
Wow.
So I like being unsure of situations. I like awkward situations.
Wow.
Okay.
So you like
social
uncertainty.
situations
That
are
is so.
awkward.
It's not that it's rare, but most people want things planned out, want certainty.
Correct.
Yes.
And I'm very close to my sister, and she's that person, and I'm the total opposite. Almost at times I feel like I'm trying to fight that bit just because.
Okay.
For no other reason.
Okay.
So for no other reason. So I'm sorry, I forgot the question. Why do I like traveling?
Yes.
I think I like the uncertainty. I like to use this term, rational YOLO.
Okay.
That I have coined and proudly often use. Rational YOLO. I think things through, but also to a certain extent, I know that life is short, and I'm not married. I don't have. YOLO, go for it. But nothing too stupid or over the edge. Do proper research, and then go piss in the wind.
Like YOLO responsibly. That's the keyword.
YOLO responsibly. Okay. YOLO rationally.
Okay, you
Friends.
hear her, girl? Okay. So tell us the story, how you ended up being in Seoul. What happened to this recce and now you're just there permanently.
Let's do this. So recce mission happened New Year's Eve 2018. Or New Year's 2018, I was there. So I was here for a week. And I kind of liked the vibe. And I like the unfamiliarity. A lot of ingredients, a lot of food. I had no idea about. I'd done not much research, and I was quite shocked at how much I did not know about Korean culture, Korean food techniques. I was shocked that I was so unknowledgeable about this part. So that was kind of like pushing me to learn more and stuff. So when I got back to KL, spoke with my team and stuff, and I felt like I needed to learn more. I had never done East Asia before. I had done Europe, I had done Singapore, and it was between Japan and Korea, but Korea had cheaper flight tickets. So Korea
So it could have
won.
been Japan now.
It could have been Japan, guys. I could be zooming with you through in Japan. Anyways, so was it. So it took me another 8 months. So before that, in August, before I really left, I sent out a bunch of CVs. So the mission guide had just arrived the year prior.
Yeah.
And I was curious what the kitchen culture, what the food culture was like here. And I'm comfortable with the fine dining scene, so I thought I'd go through there first before going deeper into like kimchi making and the more cultural things.
Yeah.
So rational Yolo, I sent out a bunch of portfolio CVs randomly to a bunch of fine dining restaurants in Seoul who had just received stars that year. And I think out of the 10, 11 I sent out, one came back to me. And this chef, Ijun, of Swanee, he did modern Korean cuisine. So he did a riff off of like French techniques. He used to work in Per Se, so he riffed off like techniques that he learned in the US of classically French things, and then combined it with Korean nuances, Korean techniques also, and ingredients, of course. And it spoke very dearly to me and what I do in Malaysia. So I was very thankful that he came back to me. And later on, I realized why a lot of them didn't come back was because of the language barrier. So I think that's something that not a lot of us we speak several languages where we are, which we're very lucky.
Yeah.
That's something that only occurred to me when I was there working in the kitchens. Language is such a big barrier. So most of these places never got back to me was because they feared they couldn't impart much knowledge because of the language barrier. Thankfully, this chef, Ijun, he worked in the US and he went to school in the US. So he felt confident. So answered my email saying he'd love to have me over to like be a guest, learn from the team and work with the team. And so in August, I had a team now in Kuala Lumpur, in KL. So I took my leave. I asked for permission. Really, I asked for permission. Can I go? I need to, broaden my horizons. And very, very grateful of how supportive they were. And I left in August and worked in Swanee, this modern Korean restaurant, for 3 months.
And then the next venture was opening up
The
your
next
own
venture
restaurant.
happened.
How did that happen?
Yes. So I know there is no rhyme or reason to how that happened. So I was an apprentice in Swanee for 3 months, and I knew it was like a short stint.
Yeah.
3 months of seeing how things go, it might extend to 6 months. So my team knows this, I know this. So daily we'd do check-ins and make sure orderings are in order, order. We'd have gigs lined up. All good, well and good. And then, so at the end of 3 months, I think I was coming to the end of my second month. I was preparing to leave Seoul, of course. And I thought before I left, I wanted to do like a pop-up. You know what I'm specialized in KL.
Back to sandwiches and cakes.
Yeah. Cakes. But more like, since we're in Seoul, right? I wanted to do like a pop-up, like a dinner pop-up 3 nights, like before I literally fly off, do satay and like nasi lemak.
Just bringing the Malaysian food and culture to the
Malaysian
Koreans.
vibe.
Yes.
Yeah, exactly. Freak them out a bit and then just bugger off and never to be seen again by the folks. So that was the plan. Typical millennial me. I Googled for an available space to do this pop-up thing. Typical. So Googled and this place popped up. And it was a company called Local Stitch. And they had this beautiful open-air rooftop kitchen with a grill and everything and an open kitchen. And I thought that'd be amazing, you know? Even if nobody shows up, me and my bunch of Malaysian friends two friends were already planning to come over kind of thing. We'd just come over and do this thing and then again, pop off. So sent an email. That night itself, received a response saying, yo, would you like to come by tomorrow for a meeting to look at the place? And just so happened the next day was my off day from Suwannee. And being the introvert me, I was like, damn it, why did they answer so soon? I wanted to sleep in tomorrow and not shower. And
and recharge and meet people again.
But I was like, recharge and meet people again. But the rational Yolo part kicked in. And I thought, like, what's the harm? Just go. It's probably going to cost a bomb, an arm and a leg. But, at least to find out what it's like. Got up early the next day, took a shower, unfortunately, and headed to the meeting. And we were talking, and then the CEO just happened to pass. He wasn't there during the meeting, so I was speaking to a bunch of team members that could speak English. And then the CEO passed by the meeting room, and then he clocked in his head and said, I saw you on YouTube. And I was like, I'm sorry if it was awkward. And he was like, no, yes.
Like the good sign, like
broken
good.
English and broken, I'm like, good.
Hand signs.
Okay, I'm still sorry. You had to watch that. I didn't know which video he watched. So the gist was that, so I am a legit chef. I'm like, yeah, legit. I can cook.
Korean approved.
Like, we checked out. Yeah, Korean approved by this company alone. Yeah, we checked you on Instagram. We found you on YouTube. I was like, oh my God. I hope that's not a bad thing. And then they were like, oh, okay, do you have time? Do you want to go for a walk with us, grab a coffee? I'm like, well, now we're going to go look at the kitchen. God damn it. But instead of going up to the rooftop, we went downstairs. And I was like, what's happening? But rational YOLO, so I just went along. And we took like a 15-minute walk, talking about things, discussing like, I don't know, like the Korean culture, food. Again, simple, normal things.
Right.
Chatter. And then we come up to this building that was under construction. And then the manager pointed to it and said, do you want to open something with us here? And that's literally how, so weird. I was having goosebumps. Also, I was trying to make sure there's no like breakdown in communication here. There's no language barrier. I mean, how bad one open shop here. How bad could that have gone wrong, right? So this is like a quick like half millisecond thing going on in my head going,
That was Basira. You're listening to Foodie Canteen. When we come back, we talk about how to know if you have made the right decision at a crossroad, and how she brought some Malaysian colour and flavour into a monocultural Korean scene. This show is supported by Good Foodie Media. For foodies who want to connect to the world through food, that's where you go. Find Penang Foodie, KL Foodie, Halal Foodie, Singapore Foodie, and Bangkok Foodie on Instagram. They curate the best spots to eat and drink in these cities. You already have this goal in your mind. Have this amazing 3-day blooming pop-up and poof, disappear, go back to Malaysia, do what I do best, my team's waiting for me. How did you go from there to like, you know what, this Korean's trying to communicate this minimal English with me, asking me to open a shop, and here you are with Agak Agak years in, and you are talking to me from Korea. Like, how did you decide, like, how do you know if it's right? She's smiling for those who's not watching on YouTube.
I want to say up to maybe, I don't know, up to maybe 2 years ago. I wasn't sure if it was the right plan or right course of action. But in life, how can you be sure of anything? Can we go deep?
Oh,
we're going philosophical right now.
Our listeners need this.
This is where
because I think a lot of our listeners who's listening to this, like they are at the age where, I mean, at any age you always have this decision crossroad. And you're like, is it right? Is it good? Is it for me? What are the pros and cons? And then your emotions get affected. The pros and cons lists don't really work. Like, how do you know? And I think, like you said, sometimes you don't know until 2 years in. You're like, maybe that's right.
Yeah. And I think there's no one size fits all decision for anything. for anything, even for what you want to eat for lunch. There is no one, decision. So the thing is, I feel like you have to go into it with a mindset where you are okay if it fails. Up to maybe a year and a half ago, I was prepared to lose Agak Agak Seoul tomorrow. So when I express this concept to friends or whoever who's asking me, they go like, "Oh my God, that's so sad. You're gonna lose your baby, or you work so hard and Agak Agak Seoul." But that's how it prepares me to be brave to do things. But having said that, you should always go into something with a healthy dose of fear. I do not trust people who go gung-ho into things going, I have 100%, confidence. I can do this. This is going to be a success. Guys, Malaysian food is number one. I wouldn't 100% trust you, really. So I think like that questioning, that constantly going, am I doing the right thing? My pros and cons list keeps growing even as I'm doing this thing that I've decided to do.
Yeah, wow.
I think it's a very healthy concept to constantly question yourself, constantly make sure you're on the right track. You're answerable to a lot of things, not only to yourself. Like I have partners now.
Yeah.
So I'm answerable to my partners. I'm answerable to my part-timers. I'm answerable to customers who are already familiar with my food for this past 2.5 years. So the thing is, I constantly question myself whether I'm doing the right thing, whether I did the right decision. And I think it's healthy to not be sure, to not be 100% confident in the choices that you make. It's very healthy, I think.
And what are the qualities of Malaysian food or culture you wanted the Koreans to experience?
The Malaysian culture as a whole. It's such an exotic concept here. So I don't like that word, but it's such a foreign concept, Malaysian food, Malaysian culture, because it's so monocultural here. Everything is this or that. So Korean food is so-and-so, and then American food is burgers. Italian food is spaghetti, pasta.
Yeah.
Indian food is curry. And then so when I first introduced my team, we haven't started having customers over yet. So just to my team, to my partners, I was serving roti canai. We had roti canai then. Roti canai and curry, but on the table we had Chinese chopsticks.
Yeah.
And we were using, the bowls, the Chinese bowls with the chicken on it and stuff.
Yeah.
It was very, it had a Chinese feel to people who are not familiar with how multicultural we are and how we use our Chinaware.
Yeah.
So there was a bit of a discourse there. People were saying like, oh, people are going to get confused with this concept, they're not going to like the fact that, they're eating in Indian food with chopsticks, Chinese looking. I'm like, this is what Malaysia is. We're multicultural, and this is what I wanted to come across mostly. Because the thing is, Southeast Asian culture, Southeast Asian food only started to like really come to the market here 20 years ago. Oh God, 80s, 90s. And it started with Vietnamese food, pho. So since then, there hasn't been proper representation of Southeast Asian culture and food here. And I've just gone into my 3rd year here, and I can confidently say there's a lot of gross stereotyping that happens when they think of Southeast Asian food or culture. And it's of no fault of their own, because nobody came in to educate, nobody came in to right wrongs.
Yeah.
And I feel like when I started Agak Agak, so there was 2 things I had to weigh out. Do I listen to my Korean partners who knew nothing better and thought like we should put, batik and orangutans and use only bamboo cutleries, to show your Southeast Asianness, Basira, And I'm going, oh, damn it. Or do I stay true to what I want and I can answer to myself and I can sleep at night knowing that I'm happy with what I'm trying to represent Malaysia as.
Right. And not fit into the stereotypes. Okay.
Not fit into a stereotype, because like, why? I can start fresh. I'm a fresh slate. There was only at that time 2 other Malaysian restaurants.
Yeah.
And I thought like, this is the time. If I wanted to, do something for Malaysia, it sounded too deep. If I wanted to do something that
You're like, ugh.
do something that I'd be proud of. Something, oh my God. But yes, do something that I'd be proud of, that my friends would be proud of, my Malaysian friends would be proud of. I had to stick to my guns, and that was one of the first things that I made sure I stuck to. Number one, I do not conform to Koreanness. I do not serve kimchi. I do not serve pickles at the table. I do not serve sriracha. I do not do things that would typically fall into a stereotype of a Southeast Asian restaurant in Korea.
Yeah.
So I went with the way that I'm comfortable with. So even though like some people will go like, oh, your sambal is not spicy enough, Malaysians would go, sambal is not spicy enough. The ones that I eat at home in my warung or my mom's house is spicier. Then I go like, yeah, but my family doesn't eat super spicy.
Okay.
And this is how I cook, or my family cooks at home, and I cook from the heart, and this is what I want to eat.
Yes.
Therefore, it's not to say it's bad or not legit or inauthentic. It's mine.
It's your story.
So that's it's my story. It's and it's not a bad story, let's be honest. It's just that not as spicy as how you would like it to be. So that's one of the first rules I set for myself. I do not conform to local palate. If there is a certain menu that is not famous or doesn't quite sink into the local preference, I just simply take it off the menu. So initially there was like 10 items on the menu. So just as an example, and char kway teow was one of the items on the menu. And the initial response was that it was too Chinese feeling and too normal. So they didn't feel like it was like exotic enough to market as a Malaysian dish. So I said, fine, cool, because we're not going to make much money on that and will be a lot of wastage. Took it off the menu. So a year later, when I gained enough traction and people like trusted me, I brought it back, and it's now one of our most famous items on the menu.
Wow. So it's how you run your show as a businesswoman. Like, you are telling your story, but we also need to think about your customer's reaction and the right timing and the food and the business part and making money part. It's like entrepreneurship in a nutshell.
Exactly. So you're not entrepreneurship in a nutshell, and you're happy with what you do because you did not conform and you did not, bend over backwards for anything per se. You just take it off. Nobody likes it. Bring it back later and test the waters then.
And what are some of the challenges you faced so far in like 2 years of opening a restaurant and running it?
The tangible issues are like Corona. So already as it is, our ingredients are so hard to come by and it's so expensive. Galangal, lemongrass. The price for galangal and lemongrass and pandan, which is unheard of, fresh pandan is unheard of here, is on par with caviar. So when I get, I know.
So Galangal is like fine dining there.
Exactly. Okay. I mean, banana leaf, like you can kind of steal or borrow from your neighbors next door or from the surau, you just say thank you and you take the stuff for free. It's 44 ringgit to 800 grams here. And it's frozen, my friend. Therefore, it doesn't bend very well. So it's those kind of things, the tangible ones. And then, of course, trying to appeal to the local market, trying to appeal to the Malaysian market. Tangible. And the intangible part is, again, like trying to educate on culture, trying to stand your ground when somebody says, oh, chef, you should do, the original noodles when you make your laksa. I'm going, what do you mean original noodles? We make a nyonya laksa and we use yellow wheat noodles.
Yes.
And they have a very good, like pretty legit one here that they use for it. And then we'd have Koreans or whatever going like, oh, you should use, the original ones that you use in Malaysia. I'm like, oh, pray tell, what do we use in Malaysia? Pray tell, I too would like to know this. Please educate me. And the response is rice noodles, like they use in pho.
Yeah, because that's all they know, like you said before.
That's all they know, exactly. So, and then we have people coming in and say, where's your pho? You're a Southeast Asian restaurant. How come you don't have a soupy broth with rice noodles?
Yeah.
So these are all intangible things that I cannot even get angry at. It's because of a lack of, I guess,
experience. I wouldn't say education, but
experience.
Experience.
No, it's not education at all. It's experience. Yeah. We are so lucky that we come from a culture that I wouldn't even say we think out of the box. There is no box. The box never had a cover. When we were born, into a culture that just was like, everybody's like living together. It was a party, everything's just mashed up together. Over here, there's a box that initially needs to be opened, or they need to realize it's a box, needs to be opened, and then they have to think outside of it. So it's a cultural thing, really. And so that's the intangible things that to this day we still face. To this day, it gets on your goat quite a bit when you're tired and stuff. But then when you look back at it, it's kind of cute. It's your turn. It's your time to shine and educate. And, hopefully more people will want to, in turn, learn about your culture, our culture.
And what's your favorite part about the Korean culture?
I like how comfortable it is. It's got a right amount of humanity and technology. How do I say this? So buses and trains and everything runs on time. Technology is awesome, but then you still have, trash on the streets. Serious, there's still trash on the street. There's still a sewer smell. You go to the pasar and, you'll have RGCs and Ajimas there cursing each other out and they're spitting on the side of the road. Pre-corona days, guys. Okay, no spitting during corona times. Okay, but I like how it's very Malaysia-like, but slightly more fast-forwarded. Like with the technology and with the, Yeah, I like that. I'm constantly amused, so that's fun.
I mean, do you have any advice for listeners who are looking to venture to Seoul or just any other city outside of Malaysia to maybe get a job or start a business like you?
I think, again, it goes back to there's not one size fits all kind of thing. But I think the biggest thing is to rational YOLO. Seriously. A lot of my part-timers or agak-agak bangsa before we did like an apprenticeship. Like we tried to guide like students or youth into the F&B industry or whatever, and I would listen because we'd work together side by side, working in the kitchen. You kind of grow close even though you don't want to. And one of the biggest fears or one of the biggest things on top of their minds is the fear of rejection. Oh, chef, what if I send out these CVs and they don't get back to me? Who bloody cares? Who's hurting your feeling by not answering you? And if your feelings are hurt by not being answered, dude, let's work on that, okay? Like, the fear of, I don't know. I mean, we see a lot of memes and Facebook posts about like, if you don't open a door, you don't know if there's anything behind. We see a lot of stuff. I don't have Facebook anymore, so I don't know what that looks like. But, rational YOLO. So you go like, oh, but I fear, what if I don't make it if I go to a so-so place? What if I fail? What if you do? It's like going to school, but fast forward, you get to learn things, what you should or shouldn't do. You lose money. What if I lose money? So what? You would still lose money living that life anywhere with a challenge or without a challenge.
Yeah.
So rational YOLO. Fear is good. Never fear fear. Questioning yourself is good, but don't overdo it that it disables you. But I think just do it. Send out that CV that you've always wanted to. Phone that influencer that you've always wanted to do an interview with. Or, I don't know, travel to that country that you've always wanted to experience. It's just do, oh my God, fear cripples, but don't let it get to that point.
And finally, where is Agak Agak now and what's next?
Initially, when Agak Agak started, I can say it was a hustle. And then when Corona started, I think it was more like a huddling down and just trying to survive, like just to make it through this time. And I am glad to say 2.5 years on, I think we're kind of on cruise control. So I'm comfortable with my staff. I'm comfortable with my menu. I'm comfortable with myself as a chef here, what I'm representing with Agak Agak and myself. So we're on cruise control, which is a very nice place to be.
Basira, thank you so much for coming on the show and just being yourself, sharing your story. We Malaysians are so happy for you just listening to where you're at right now in life and your advice. Rational YOLO, right? That's the word. I'm going to
Rational
remember.
YOLO. I'm going to print t-shirts, guys.
Oh, yes, like Rational YOLO dash Basira.
Rational YOLO.
2022.
Basira. That's right.
All right.
That's what everybody's getting for Christmas.
You have just listened to Basira's story on Foodie Canteen. This show is produced by me, your host Castle Lim, and written by Sulin Chang. Foodie Canteen podcast is made possible by the excellent team at Good Foodie Media. Check us out on Instagram and Facebook and also YouTube at Foodie Canteen for more. Follow us for brand new episodes every Friday. Thanks for listening.